We ready?
We are ready.
Awesome. Well, good evening, everyone. Hi, Facebook family. Hi, YouTube family. And hi, family on the Zoom call with us this evening. Welcome to Mommies and Money. My name is Laura Weeding. Myself and the wonderful, beautiful Tanisha Steiger are your hosts. And we have special guest, Miss Natasha. How do you say your last name?
Harrigan.
Harrigan. I didn't want to butcher it. So lovely to have you with us this evening. I'm super duper excited about today's topic. But before we get into that, I just wanted to let everyone know who are watching on Facebook Live, this will be our last live stream on Facebook. Moving forward, we'll be going live on YouTube. And so if you want to be a part of our conversation, please definitely register. We will have that link up shortly. Also, just to let you know, our mission statement here at Mommies and Money, we are in pursuit of excellence in the breaking of generational curses by empowering women and mothers, I can't talk today, through financial education to ensure a better future. So here, we want you to win financially. We want you to have the tools to step into your financial future and prepare not only for yourself, but your kids as well. I mean, this is a safe environment. And so we're here to laugh, love, and talk about the great and serious issues, but also we want you to be comfortable with us. So this is a judgment-free zone and your opinion matters to us. So we definitely want to hear from you. So again, join our conversation, register with us, and also we'll be providing a survey link before the end of this segment. So let us hop right into it. But before we do, Tanisha, did you have anything else you wanted to add? Did I forget anything?
Oh, no. Nope, you totally got it.
Okay, so why don't you tell us what today's topic is?
Oh, me. Okay. So, so today's topic, we're talking about our children, and I mean our children in our community, and the education system. And we all know that the education system is either going to make or break us, one, and so we don't know if we're winning or we're failing. And the thing about it is the reason why we have a special guest, two special guests on, it's because we need a clear insight on one of somebody who's already in that system and sees it, and then two, somebody who's also been raising a beautiful young Black prince, and he's actually gotten plenty of scholarships as well as gotten into 13 different colleges, all because of being an active mother. She made sure that she was always involved in his daily life, and as well as school, as well as outside of school. So we are here to talk about our education right now. Thank you very much. Back to you, Laura.
Oh, well, thank you. I am super excited, as we were saying before we went live. I'm excited about this topic because I am a mother and my son is 12. And so I feel like it was just yesterday. He was, 6 months old, but they grow so fast and they go through things throughout their school career, so to speak. And this topic came about because we recently made a switch. My husband and I, the school that my son had been going to is considered a great school, right? And a lot of people want their children at this particular school. And my son had been experiencing some difficulties there. And I'll just put it out there. He's not necessarily the best test taker. He has test anxiety and he gets it from me. I'm not even gonna lie. I hate exams. However, I was a very good student in school. I was on a roll and, sometimes straight A's, but test taking was just not my forte. And I would just have extreme anxiety even to this day. And so back to Aaron, my son. So in kindergarten, the school that he goes to is a charter school, and or where he went is a charter school, and they do a lot of testing there. My thing was they did a lot of testing, obviously for the funding, but it seemed like that is all they cared about. And because he wasn't excelling as well on tests. He can do homework, he can do classwork, he can do group, discussions and all of that till he was blue in the face. But when it came down to tests, it seemed like that's all they cared about. And then they started to label him based off of scores. So he was just a number. And it was frustrating for me as a parent because, again, I know my child, I know his strengths, I know his weaknesses. And so we would work with him, but it just felt like it was to no avail. There were ways of intervention as far as helping him prepare for exams. But what I ended up finding out was that, it really wasn't working. They would, recommend, oh, bring him to Saturday school. But then I would ask him, hey, and this followed him all the way to fifth grade. So, it started really first grade. I'll say first grade, not kindergarten. So first grade, it followed him from first grade to fifth grade. And it seemed like every year it was the same subject. It was always math, and it was like it followed him and like he couldn't catch a break, and it seemed like every single year it would be too late by the time a teacher would let me know that there was an issue. Right. And so again, going back to the Saturday school, I would ask them, so what did you guys do? Oh, well, we just play games on the computer. And it's like, well, what is the whole purpose of a Saturday school intervention if nothing is helping you? We're here to take a test. We're here to prep. You know what I'm saying? And so, again, my husband and I ended up switching schools. And now, obviously, he's in a much better place where he can, get the attention that he needs, get whatever it is that he was missing from the other school. But it was frustrating to me as a parent, and I felt like my son was being left behind. So back to the topic, are we winning? Are we failing? And in this particular situation, I felt like I was failing, and I was looking at his school like, well, aren't you guys supposed to be the best? You know what I mean? People were moving in the area just for their children to go to this particular school. And when I talked to my dad, he was like, well, you got to understand, Laura, that not every school is for every child. You know what I mean? It could be the best school, but it may not be the best for your child. And that put things in perspective for me because as great as they were supposed to be, my son is not flourishing in a different school. He's doing much better. And he's getting like I said before, the attention that he needed. And he's not being labeled in where he is now, as opposed to where he was. So, yeah, I was just sharing my story, opening up with just my experience with me as a parent being frustrated. And I'm one of those parents like, hey, son, if you are having issues, please talk to us. If you need help, we're here. I don't know any parent that wants to see their child fail. We all want to see our child succeed. And so I was very hands-on with him, but it was just a very frustrating experience when it came to that particular school. So I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and turn it over to our special guest speaker, because she actually has a lot of insight because she works within the school system. And I would love to hear from her, this beautiful queen. Her name is Miss Natasha. Natasha, can you unmute and just let us know a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Tanisha and Laura, for having me this evening. I'm just honored to even just be here with Mommies and Money and just share some information and possibly learn from you guys. You guys maybe learn a little bit from some of the information that I have to share. I have been in public school for 21 years. So it's been a long time. It's been a really long time. I've been 18 years in Atlanta Public Schools and 3 years in DeKalb County school system. So I kind of have seen a few parts here in Atlanta. And I know that we spoke, briefly this week. And me personally, my opinion, I am pro public school. I feel that there's you can get the same information, education from public school, but it just really solely depends on the parent, the community, and what they want. Charter schools, they get the funding from federal, and we talked about, she's smiling, they get the federal funding and they get the private funding. So there's no reason why they don't have the resources to, and that's not to say that they don't, but we were just particularly talking about your situation and having the resources to assist your son in just simple test taking, you know?
Right.
It's not like he wasn't doing the other work. He just happens not to do well on tests, as do most of our kids, you know? And so he's not alone in that at all. And so, and the difference is public school, obviously they just get the federal funding. And so it's limited there in that area.
I have a question, and maybe you would know. When it comes to the funding, is it based on test taking? Because I feel like that was what they pushed. I swear every week they were taking a huge exam and they were building it up, and the kids were losing, you know, their confidence. It's like, I mean, they were making the children nervous.
Right. Good question. Very good question. So as far as I know, and I can only speak from my experience, the federal funding is just based on the number of the FTE count. It's just based on the number of students at that school. That's for public school. Charter school has their own guidelines, you know, and they have a lot more freedom than the public schools do, right? And so if that's what they want to do with their money, then they can test every week if they want to. And at the end of the day, it's about their numbers, their scores, you know, so that they can go ahead and market and try to get, you know, and that's what's giving them the name that they have. But then, you know, the question lies, are we really winning, or are we really failing our kids? Which is, you know, where you were, and then you had to make a decision to switch schools, you know, and get a better situation for your son.
Right. Now I have another question, maybe a little bit off the topic of the funding, but do teachers have like a quota that they need to meet as far as like children who are passing and children who are failing? Like, is there like a specific number that you guys have to reach? I mean, I've heard things like over the years, like, oh, you know, they will allow certain students to fail and then they'll pass so many students. Is that true?
So I wouldn't say that it's a number per se or a percentage. I've heard of different percentages, 25%, 24%. But I could tell you from a teacher perspective, if I'm failing, let's just say more than 50% of my students, then everyone looks at the teacher, that you're not getting that information across to the students and they're not comprehending what that information is. And so it's a real balancing scale, because you have to meet those students where they are to get them over that line, whether it be, you know, extra credit, giving them more time, you know, whatever that situation is. But to answer your question, it's not necessarily a number, but if you are failing too many kids, it's a red flag. They want to know what exactly is going on in there. What are you teaching? Are they learning it? How are they doing on the tests? You know, and it just kind of starts there. And so oftentimes, you know, teachers struggle with that because you have to reach out to the parent. And I think we talked about that, and having the active parents, you know, to assist at home, you know, and it's always good when you have those parents And it's not to say that other parents are not active, because I mean, you have some parents, and we've shared this, working 3 jobs, and so they may not necessarily have the time to be as active as they want to, but they'll drop you an email and say, I may not be able to make it to parent teacher conference, but I want you to know that I'm here, I'm active, and that's always great. And it definitely helps, right? But to just go back to your question, it really isn't a number per se. Teachers,
Okay.
they may say, oh, it's, because principals may give their staff that, but it's not something that's like federally. So for them to be testing so much, that would definitely raise a question. What are you testing for? Because they have to have time to actually learn whatever the content is, if that makes sense. So if you're constantly testing, I mean, what's the purpose behind it? That would be a question, if you were still there, that would be a question to definitely ask.
That actually reminds me of what we spoke about, this story I told you guys, in regards to like the teacher and the relationship with the student. My son's kindergarten teacher, I feel bad for my child, because everybody should have like a positive experience with their first teacher, right? And it just seemed like this woman, well, for one thing, she just wasn't good with 6-year-olds, 5 and 6-year-olds. They should never have put her in that situation where she had to teach kindergarten. She was very rude. She was very mean, very militant. And I know you just can't do that with children that are 6. It's, they just have way too much energy. They learn with hands-on activities, but to try to make them sit still and be quiet, it was just a setup for both sides, for the teachers and for the children. I had mentioned to you guys that she was actually a gifted teacher for the middle school age, but for whatever reason, they put her with kindergartners that year. I believe she went on to, I think she went back to middle school age the following year, and then perhaps she left. But that was just a horrible experience for me as a parent as well, because it was just like, okay, come on, they're 6. Why are you calling me over every single little thing? But you're not calling me if my child is getting bullied, but you're calling me if he accidentally threw a pencil across the room. You know what I mean? Like, come on. So
Right.
that's just, it's just an interesting experience. And it just wasn't a good experience for elementary on our side of things, period.
Right. And I'm sorry that he and you had to even go through that, because, we as teachers, we definitely have a choice whether we want the primary, the middle school, or high school. And so that's what you study for in college. I'm in health and PE, so I'm certified K through 12. So I can go through, or 2, I should say, I'm sorry, to any elementary, middle, or high school. And so you actually have an opportunity to student teach and see which one, works for you. Elementary may not work for one, but may work for another. And so I hate that he had that experience, because militant, even in PE, a lot of people will come in the gym and they're like, it looks chaotic in here. No, it's organized. We have 30 kindergartners in the gym, and so they may be doing all kinds of things, but, it's definitely organized. And so it's so many different things that go into just one child's, education. The parent, the teacher. I mean, it's literally a village, literally a village.
I agree with that, because Now, my son, and I can only speak on myself, right? I can only speak from my own personal experience and perhaps some of the conversations I've had with other parents. But I definitely agree that it takes a village. Um, it really starts at home when it comes to preparing your children for school. I mean, and then even going on to prepare them for their financial future. That is what this platform is for, you know? And so, again, I agree that as a parent, we are responsible and we have to definitely make sure we stay on top of what is going on with our children. What are they learning? What are they bringing home? You know, I actually had a parent teacher conference more recently, and they told me that Aaron hadn't been doing his math work. And so, you know, every day I'm like, son, what kind of work do you have going on? Like, what are you guys working on? And with it being virtual, it's a little easier for things to kind of slip because he can easily say, oh, hey, I turned this in and I just have to submit. You know what I mean? And then it comes back to me weeks later. But to me, it's all about communication. One, communicating with your child, and then two, communicating with the teacher. That was the lesson that I had to learn, was that not just, you know, you want to trust your kids, obviously, but you have to go behind them. Because sometimes if they're not necessarily engaged or like the subject, in Aaron's case, he gets bored. And so he'll just not do it. And I have to go behind him and triple check, you know. Why are you shaking your head, Tanisha?
I was saying, like, because as you know that when we were coming up, sometimes our parents were making sure we did our homework. You know, we had to do our homework at the table and make sure it's completed, do all our reading. And I do remember, like, my mom, she had to go over my reading homework and my assignments. My mom and my dad were both, like, they were like 7 to 3 or 9 to 5. Like, that was what they were. So when I got home from school, they were definitely, like, they were there. So it comes back to, I was shaking my head because I was there, like, I get to sit there and see, like, what did you not do? Like, Aaron, what schoolwork do you have to sit there and do? So I'm just laughing because I just know how Aaron is. So I was like, Aaron's probably like, Mom, I did it.
He did. He was. And then come to find out, like, he just didn't do it. It's like, son, come on now. I mean, I get it. You don't have to like it, but you still have to do it. But again, the lesson that I learned was, one, staying on top, and two, going behind it. When we were growing up, it was a lot easier to look over the shoulder and be like, all right, that ain't right. You know what I mean? Like, go back and read that passage and correct this. Now online, you know, you plug stuff in and then you hit a button and submit it. You know what I mean? I can't go back and triple check because they have it fixed to where if you don't get it right, you can't submit it. So when it is correct, you go to the next one. So it's automatic, everything is 100% or you can't move on. So when it came to him just not doing what he was supposed to do, you know, that came back to me. But I said to the teacher, I said, wait a minute, you know, a whole quarter? How come you didn't call me? How come you didn't say anything? Why wait until parent teacher conference? And so, you know, moving forward, I need you to communicate with me as well. And I'll be doing my part. So like you said, it's a village. We all have to do our part.
Absolutely. And you have teachers, I mean, they're not perfect either. You know what I'm saying? And so
Right.
they definitely, we have to reach out, you know, and communicate. If a student, I just, you know, today told my class, I was like, I'm gonna be making some phone calls because, you know, in this virtual setting, it's hard. It's hard for them. It's hard for us. It's hard for the parents. Like it's hard, you know. And so, you know, we definitely have to communicate both ways. Tanisha,
I had a oh, go ahead, Tanisha. I'm sorry.
Because you said something about the funding, and when it comes to the funding, and you worked in APS schools and in DeKalb County. Now, I'm not sure how every other state is, but my issue that I see within the school system is that regardless of the federal or the local funding, it seems like our children are being left back a lot more at a much higher rate than other races. And I don't know if that's just like because of what's happening in the school system or what's happening in the funding situation, or is it more so like, okay, we're going to sit there and allot this money over here, or we're going to sit there and take this funding from Coca-Cola or from Pepsi or whatever and put it into this such and school, or Northside Hospital is going to like give this much money to a certain high school or middle school. So does that actually affect what actually happens in our education system when it comes down to getting like the books or the proper books that are needed for our children, or that, like, when I say books, I mean supplies. So like, you know, if they have a map of the world and that map of the world is from 1956 and we're in 2020 or something like that, right? There has to be a disconnect somewhere in the system where it's not being put into, it's like the redlining thing. When it comes to it's like the same exact thing. Like, so they'll fund the ones that have much more population of other races inside of it. And then when it comes down to the ones that are in the urban areas, we don't get the same chances or get the same opportunities as the other ones in other districts. So is it like being in this being involved in this education system? I mean, I know it's just, you know, health, but I know you see something. There has to be something that's broken inside, on the inside. And I just want to know what do you think about, or what do you see when it comes down to why or how it's actually broken in between? Because there is something that's missing that's making parents either homeschool or is making parents either sit there and have to participate. And I say have to, like they feel like they're kind of forced to, when they know that they have to sit there and work every day, but they have to double check on what's actually happening inside these classrooms as well. So I just want to know your insight on that.
So you talked about a couple of things. The labeling part, from what I've seen, which is something which is huge, is our kids being labeled. And the first thing is the behavior. That is where, you know, you have your tests, you know, your scores, then comes the behavior. And so if Johnny is disrupting class, you know, they may try to contact the parent, find out what's going on, you know, and then let's just say it keeps happening. Johnny knows the work. Let's just say Johnny knows the work, but Johnny's finished with the work early. And so now he's bored. And so now he's going to try to talk to Sue next to him and everybody else. And that may be a behavior problem. And after a process, because there is a due process with that, they are tested. And if the parent is not in making that contact and having meetings, if the parent is not involved in that process, once that student is tested, then they are quote unquote labeled. So not all the time is it because a student doesn't know the work. It could be just behavior. And I mean, it states that Johnny doesn't have a problem with doing his work, but Johnny's behavior. Right. And so it's a lot that goes into that process, but oftentimes parents kind of rely on the school, you know, to assist in that area, and them not being an active participant, you know, and if they're working or what have you, not knocking that at all, but just not really understanding the process. And then their kid is labeled. And now they're labeled through, you know, for some years, you know, until they have to now be retested. And I'm not sure how many years. I want to say like 2 or 3 years. And it goes the flip side. If the student is tested for gifted, then they stay in that gifted label for a certain amount of years. And then they're tested again to either stay or, you know, get out of it. So it's not necessarily funding with that. But then if you start to get into the funding and why certain schools, there's an inequity, you know, amongst certain schools. Again, it's the community and the parents. You know, if it's funding that's needed, there are grants that can, you know, be applied for. You may know someone in the community that writes grants. Okay, so can you write a grant for technology for our kids so every child can, you know, get laptops? I'm just, you know, giving an example. Or another grant for updated books or supplies is what you were talking about, or field trips, whatever it is. Oftentimes the school's hands may be tied in certain areas, and they're needing someone from the outside to kind of do that part. And then you also have the companies, you know, that maybe parents that are CEOs, and their company donates $10 million to a particular school. You know, so it's so many different facets, and that's why being active, it just helps, you know. And it starts being a part of the PTA, you know, holding seats. Yes, the PTSA, being a part of that, you know. And then you're able to be on, like in APS, we have a Go team. So you have a little bit of everyone in the school, right? So of course you have your principal, you have a teacher, you have a community member, you have a parent, you have a student, you have everybody that's a part of this team. They go over the budget, they go over everything, you know. And so the thing that I would say is to be active, hold some offices, you know, in PTSA. Yes, you are. I'm sorry. I'm so used to seeing students comments.
Yeah. You're very welcome to be on here. It's totally fine. Totally fine. So even what you say, so being in the PTA, am I allowed to be in the PTA? And I'm not a mom just yet. Like, can I just be like, oh, I know somebody's kid, so I'm gonna be active?
Absolutely. No, but as far as, so they have different, you know, PTSA is strictly for the parent, teacher, and student, but like in APS, so each school system may have a different name, but in APS, we have the Go team. So you can be a community member. You can be a community member, yes. And be a part of.
I was just double checking because, you know, there's probably a lot of aunties that, like, again, at MIT, I'm a mommy in training, so there's probably a lot of me's going out there like, I mean, I want my godson or my niece or my nephew to make sure that they're going in the right direction. So I didn't know how the PTA works per se.
Yeah.
My mom was never a part of it.
Like, mine either.
I would like to ask a question. This is Paris. I'd like to ask a question as well because I'm from Chicago. My child is born and raised in Chicago. I live in Chicago. So are the PTA, is it an appointed, are they appointed people? Because I know they're appointed here, you sit on a board.
So they have to be voted in, they have to be elected. And so, and we've had community members that have held offices in the PTSA, you know, especially when you're trying to fill those spots, you know, president, vice president, things of that nature. So they are elected. Now, certain positions on the Go team are appointed, but I would just go to the school and find out, you know. Some of the offices are 1 year and 2 year. I'm talking about on the Go team, and I can only speak for APS. And so I would just go and go to the school and ask them about the PTSA, because that's where you get all of the other information.
All the information, you're right.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And to be honest, and I was sharing this earlier, just in the 20 years that I've been in education, I've just seen the parental involvement just kind of decrease. And I don't think that it's not because it's because they don't want to be involved. I think sometimes they just don't know. And it's just like, oh, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to go. I don't know who to talk to. You know what I'm saying? And so I would definitely start there, because like I said, you're going to get the information that some teachers don't get, some parents don't get, you know, and then you have a relationship with the actual principal and people that actually work at that school.
Wow. Okay.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead, Tanisha.
Oh, no, I'm done. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I know we mentioned this before. What would you say to a parent that's thinking about, you know, the difference between private, public, charter, and homeschooling? Because we obviously with the pandemic more recently, I have been thinking about homeschooling my child, but I actually had been thinking about it before because, like we had mentioned, a lot of parents are just feeling like their children are not getting their needs met, or they may feel that some of the curriculum is just unnecessary, or I don't know, the way I've thought about it, seeing as how my son is getting older, you know, just new ways of teaching the same information, and it's just making them more and more confused. But what would you kind of tell a parent who's thinking about, you know, different ways to educate their child? Like, I'm not an educator. It's not my forte. It is not what I have been blessed to do because I do not have the patience. But after seeing my son in an in-home schooling environment, like I said, I believe he's thriving more. So, like, what would you advise a parent like me to do in a situation like that?
Well, the first thing I would do, because each situation is different, and the first thing I would ask is, how does your son work in a virtual or homeschool setting? Because oftentimes they lose that social health, if I will, me being a health educator, you know, and so that would be the first question. How do you think that your child would matriculate just being in home, not being, you know, social and things of that nature? Because that's all a part of school. When you talk to kids, they're like, oh, I want to go back and see my friends, you know? So that would be the first thing, you know, how do you think he would be in that homeschool setting? Because it's definitely different. It's completely different. Then how would you be? Because, you know, it's going to be just kind of like what the setting that, you know, we're in right now with the pandemic, as far as being online and doing work and really not being face to face and not being able to ask questions when needed. You know, how would you guys fit into that? Then my next question would be, like I said from the beginning, I'm, you know, a public school baby, you know, and I feel the Chi-Town. I grew up in New York. I went to, I moved in 8th grade. So most of my education was in New York, and it was all public school. You know, it's a little different up north because you don't have to be tested, but you do have to apply. You have to apply, you have to have some kind of talent. So it's a little bit different to get into those public schools. And so maybe that's where the comparison is. So it's, in the South, it's not like that, right? And so I see why, some parents choose charter or private, right? Is to get that smaller student teacher ratio. That's one of the facts. You know, quote unquote, better education, right? So there's just a lot of different pieces that go into that. And it really depends on how the child is going to thrive in those type of environments. You know, are they used to being around other ethnicities? You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot that goes into play with that. And so that would be the first you know, that would be the first couple of questions that I would definitely ask.
I am a public school baby as well, but I'm from the Midwest. I was born in Chicago too. Hey, Chi-Town. I was not raised there. I was raised in Cleveland, Ohio. But it is very different. Down here, it has been our experience, and me being a parent now, it has been more about the testing. And I remember growing up, we tested in early elementary, and then in high school, it was like, you know, all this time, all these grades, they skipped all the major testing. And then obviously going into college, you have your ACTs, SATs, PSATs, all of those different type of standardized exams to get into college. So my son has never been in public school. He's always been charter. And like you said, a lot of parents just don't know the difference. I mean, I was recommended to this particular school that he used to be in, and that's all he's known. And his new school it's a charter structure. It's a part of APS. But just like the other charter school he went to, they add a grade each year. So his class would technically be the first graduating class. But I mean, so far it's great. However, because now that we've moved, he won't be able to go there next year. But I mean, I was considering, after talking to him, he wants to go back to school, but then I've noticed that he does better just being in a home environment. So, I mean, it's kind of tough for me because, you know, I want him to have that social experience, but then at the same time, I definitely don't want his academics to fall by the wayside, you know? So that's just kind of where I've been.
Excelling more at home, then I would definitely try it. If he is doing better, you know, at home, and you have some kids, they thrive by themselves. I have some students, I don't want to be in a group. Can I be myself? Can I do the work myself? Can I do it on my own? Can I not be in a group? And for some stuff, I'm like, yes, you do need to be in this particular group. And then sometimes I'm like, yes, you could do it, you know, on your own. So, and see, that's perfect, because if he's excelling, then, you know, meet him there, you know. And then you can always pick up on the social aspects later, but just be cognizant of he still needs that. So you may find some other kids in the area that's being homeschooled, and, you know, try to meet and do different activities there. And let me just say, I'm not knocking private. I'm not knocking charter at all, because they definitely have some awesome programs. We're just really just talking about, you know, your experience with it. And, you know, being in public school, what I definitely find is that most students that are in public, that are in private or charter, by the time they get to high school, they're not going up through that charter school. They move
Wait,
over.
say that one more time.
So let's say if a student is going through kindergarten through, let's even say 6th grade. By the time they get to 6th grade, they're switching over to public. Too often, you really don't find too many students, because what? They're paying $20,000 a year for their child. They've already paid for college, you know? And so it gets to the point where it's just like, okay, what do I do? Now they already have the skill set. They've already been in those small settings, you know, with teachers. And so they're able to really thrive, you know, once they get to public school. Yep.
And speaking on that, the thriving once they get to 6th grade. Speaking of that, I'm going to bring up somebody who's dear to me. Paris, like I said, she's driving her son. They're driving the family to Vanderbilt. So to do like a little college, like make sure if he wants to go there or not. Paris Washington is a mother of this beautiful little Black man, and he definitely changed the game, but he was also, like she sat there and said, he was also motivated and he had more, probably motivated more so than some of our friends' kids just yet. But this kid is doing miraculous things, and that's being in the. I'm pretty sure, Paris, you could let me know, but I don't think he was actually in a private sector. I think he went to a public school. So let me just Paris.
I hear you. I hear you.
Everyone, this is Paris Washington. She just she gave birth to Avery, and he's doing amazing things. So Paris, please let us know what has Avery has seen and what he's doing and what he has done, and what we and being a parent, how have you affected his life, making sure that he's gotten to this point.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Tanisha, and good evening, everyone. And I am honored to be speaking tonight. I appreciate it. So as Tanisha was saying, yes, my son, born and bred up in the Chicago public school system. Now, do they have their ups and downs? Absolutely, but I would have never changed it any other way. Avery has been, again, since first grade, he's been in a Chicago public school setting. And he's also, I think, in my opinion, the reason why he's striving is because, to the point of Natasha, the village, you need a village. So good teachers, his dad and I, when he had problems or he struggled in an area, you have to take a hold of that, and that has to be something that's done with the parent and the teachers. And just a few things that teachers have told me as Avery was coming up through the Chicago public school system. They said one thing, I think it was his third grade teacher told me, learning doesn't stop when the bell rings. Learning continues when he's at home, so make sure he's reading, not just for school, just reading. Make sure he's learning finance and, things dealing with math, not just for school, just learning it. So he'll have it. So and I know I've taken a lot of the things that people have told me and honed it into my parenting style. So my father, my biological father, was in Texas. And I know when Avery was about 8 years old, he told me, let your child have a voice. Don't silence your child. At first, I'm like, well, child need to be in their places. Children need to have a place. He was like, yeah, but if you think about it, white kids, when they speak, people listen. But when you let the child talk, they can form proper sentences and can tell you exactly what's going on with them. And I have to say, he talks a lot, but people listen. And when they listen, he has no problem asking questions that he doesn't have answers to. He has no problem telling me that, hey, I'm struggling in this area. Can we find something? Can we find a tutor or whatever, to help me out? I know in 8th grade, we were struggling with him because the teachers went on strike. So the 8th grade for here is kind of crucial because they are taking tests to get into these selective enrollment high schools, and these tests play a big part in it. So he knew he was struggling with math. I took, again, trying to hold him accountable and myself accountable. I went and, researched math tutors, and he was in tutoring for 3 months until he got it. So he learned one-on-one with the tutor when it came down to SAT prep. They would do a large study, a study group, in high school, but my son wanted to know, man, I would like to have a one-on-one tutor. Can you arrange that? So I had to sacrifice a few, but I feel like if this is the child that I brought into this world, I want him to be a productive citizen. He wants to do this. Who am I to stop greatness? So I'm going to do my part. And as long as I'm coming through as your parent, I'm expecting you to knock it out the park. And I must say that my child has knocked it out the park. To the point of Tanisha, he applied to 17 schools. He was accepted into 13 of them. He has over $1.5 million in scholarship money. And his number one school that he wanted to go to was Columbia University, the Ivy League in New York, and he got accepted. I'm like, I could do what I put into him it wasn't just me.
Ooh,
It
that's
was
what
a
I'm
village.
talking about.
I know. I'm like, I'm so
Yes.
proud of my son. But again, it was the teachers. It was the Shula program. So as parents, we need to always be advocates for our children. Know those counselors. Know your teachers on the first name basis. I was listening to Laura, and I heard you say that you really didn't know until your child was missing assignments until the parent-teacher conference. That's unacceptable on the district, because I know here in Illinois, well, I should say Illinois. I know it in Chicago, we have an app called Edmondo, and everything that goes into that app, we know if the child was if he missed that assignment the next day. So we know that something is doing math on the 12th of April or whatever, and you didn't do it. I know that was given to you, and I know that was the day that was due. We have email addresses for every single teacher. Even Avery's a senior now, and he's in a economics class, microeconomics. And because he has been focusing on writing, letters for scholarship money, he was letting his AP microeconomics grade slip to, I think he had a high B, and now he's at like a low B. But I got a email from Mr. Smith like, hey, just checking in. I know this is a rigorous, year for Avery, but we just make sure that he's focusing on, and that was on a Saturday morning. So when you have teachers that care, as a parent, you better be damn sure I'm going to be caring too, because it's like, we're just trying to make you better as a student. So he really didn't like the fact that Mr. Smith called me or emailed me on a Saturday morning. But I don't care. If he cares enough to care about you, you better believe I'm going to do my part to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do. So just accountability, and don't be scared to put your child in those AP or honors classes, because to the point of Miss Natasha, she said that, it was in fact that the child had a problem. He knew he knows the work as the teacher. Like, just because he has a behavioral problem, that's because he's bored. Challenge him. Make sure as a parent, like, hey, well, how about giving him more work or harder work? So he ain't concentrating on trying to talk, because he's trying to figure out this problem. Because he likes school, he's just bored with it. Challenge your children. When you challenge them, that makes them better. It makes them want more. And I know for my child, it worked. It may not work for every child, but I know variables play big differences in everyone's family. But the more you have a village, you will succeed in raising a child. That's my take on it.
Wow, thank you so much for
I wish
speaking.
I had
There.
you. I wish I had you.
I know.
I got a little emotional. I
You
did.
have Tanisha over here in tears.
Oh,
Aw, that's awesome though. Congratulations, Avery. Like, I don't know if he can hear us, but that's awesome, and that's what an achievement. I don't know you, but I'm proud of you.
Right.
Thank you.
You walk across that stage, and he's gonna walk across many stages.
Absolutely.
That's definitely gonna be, you played a big part in that too, Mom. I mean, don't think that you
Absolutely.
didn't. And I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome. It warms my heart, because that's what it's all about. Is our kids getting that information and then doing what they want to do with it, and going
Absolutely.
whatever direction. Yes.
Absolutely. So that's Mommies and Money, man, building that legacy and that future. Paris, this is Delita. I know you're on audio, not video.
Hi.
But hi, beautiful. Man, I just came out of another meeting, but I'm so happy to be on to this one. And, Tanisha told me last week some good news about Avery, and you were going to be on. And man, Miss Natasha, I had a chance to hear you a little bit too. And, that's a beautiful share. I really want to appreciate you for coming on and, sharing with Mommies and Money this amazing success story, and that it's happening in our community. It happens for our children. And it takes the village. I love what you just said. For Victoria, I always talk about the village of love, because it's not me, it is us, it is ours together. So when those wins happen, you look to the left and you look to the right, and it's what I believe I call in my faith, the angels that the universe and God has put in place to help us get these kids along the way so that they can be the best, the greatest that they're purposed to be. And Avery, he has his story, and, to the point of many things, it doesn't have to necessarily do with money, but as a mom and having a son in this country with everything that's going on right now. And I just want to let you know from our hearts in this platform, and, Laura has a son as well, that we cover you. We cover you in partnership. We cover you in prayer. We cover your children. And we got to make sure that our children are on a right path. And education matters. It's a gateway to so many different things so that we can have a better world for everyone. So thank you for sharing, and congratulations to both you and Avery and Daddy as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I know Austin's probably driving like, why am I not being mentioned?
I know. He's like, hey.
Right.
No, he's probably like, why am I not being mentioned here?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I have my earpiece in. They don't get none of this. It's all about me right now. It's all about me.
I love it. That's hilarious.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Thank you for sharing, though. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
That was it's really powerful, and it's not and you being an active parent, it's just not just, yeah, you know how I am. I'm all about making sure that when it comes to our community and finance, and actually and making sure financial education is not just a part of it, but it's a big aspect to making sure that your children know what you're doing and what you're doing for them, and making sure you're pushing them just like you're pushing yourself. That we do know that we have a couple areas we have to work on in our community, but when it comes to our kids, I mean, I'm not sure if everybody doesn't remember, but I'm pretty sure we all remember. But coming to America wasn't too long ago, and I believe the children are our future. Thank you, Whitney. But we have so what you did with Avery, I'm trying to be the advocate of showing other Black parents, hey, you can sit there and put your child and help your child grow up and have a great plan for college. You can sit there and be just a part and very active in their lives, and making sure, if your child is a little bored, or if they're not bored, they're actually at AP, or they're like, I don't know exactly what I want to sit there and do, but Mom, I have a plan, but I don't know if I want to go this way or this way. And I'm not sure, in Chicago, I know that it's actually a national nonprofit, and we've actually talked about this, Paris. But our nonprofit that we represent is HYPE, and that's the college coaching program. And when it gets to that point where that child is in that second semester, 8th grade, that's the pivotal moment. That's when you make your move. That's when you're like, okay, would you like to sit there and actually want to be able to know what's going on in your own life? Because I can only push you to where you want to go, babe. But when it comes to you, it's your decision, because you are going to be an individual in this world. So that's why we always sit there. We let everybody know about the Heartland Institute of Financial Education. It's a national 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we promote financial literacy across all the United States, right? And so it's to help these young Americans, and and I'm saying to help young Americans, but that's saying with all, but definitely within the Black and Brown community, we have to start really realizing what we can sit there and do to help the student and the parent, and assist them with the things like college planning and admissions and the financial aid process. Because a lot of us who may have the 2 or 3 jobs, man, they might be like, I don't want to sit there and fill out this FAFSA form, but I have to, and I don't know exactly what to sit there and put down on it. But that's where the college coaching and the college planning comes from, as well as the other third of the pie, which is the village, because you might have a friend or an auntie or a cousin or another mom who's like, wait, I can help you out here. This is what we can sit there and talk about. This is what we can sit there and do, and give you that advice. Because a lot of moms, mommies have clubs. That's why I noticed. Mommies have clubs. Like, you have the ones that are like, oh, my child, he's playing basketball or he's playing football. Then you have the moms like, my daughter's a cheerleader. My daughter's in chorus. She's in band. And you're like, okay, so you guys have little cliques, right? So within them cliques, moms are sitting there talking to each other. I'm sitting there like, if I was in your parent group, if I was with Paris and I'm sitting here listening to your son just applied to 17 schools and got into 13, yeah, I want to do that. How do I do that? And Paris might be like, I may not have all the answers, but I could push you to the right direction of making sure that your child gets there, right? So that's a plus side when it comes down to what mommies do and the power of what moms, especially when it comes to us as women, what we're powerful and our power within us, and what we sit there and we help when it comes down to helping our children out and each other out. So that I'm loving every second of this. This has been an amazing show. I'm like super excited. I know we're actually gone past our time, but Laura, Natasha, Dalitha, as usual, beautiful self. Do you ladies have anything to say before we end Mommies and Money? Oh, I can't say that because Laura has a fun-filled fact. So we'll actually. Oh, we're not gonna do the fun-filled fact? Okay. No,
we can. No, yeah, I have it. I definitely have it. I was saying, no, I didn't have anything extra to add. No, I've just been blown away by this segment. And I mean, there is so much more information out there. And thank you once again, Natasha, for, just giving us that information. And I mean, me as a parent, there's no rule book here. We're all doing this together. This is our village. And I'm so grateful for this platform because we get to give that information. We get to help each other. And that is what we are at Mommies and Money. So I'm really grateful again for today, for this topic. You're welcome, David. Thanks for joining us.
David over here trying to get all the, he's like, you have Fathers and Finance, bro. Like, that's just keep, moms are
he's
doing.
Hijack Mommies and Money. I love it. I love it.
Hijack Mommies and Money. So we love you, David. I love you too. Hey, all reps to dads. Dads out there doing it too. So, hey, we love you too. We love you
doing
too.
it big.
Definitely need it.
That's awesome. So as we wrap up, and again, we have so much more information to give, but as we wrap up, we always like to, here's a hot mess. I love it. Dalitha, you have one more thing to add?
I do. Before we wrap up, I just want to, give a plug for Singles and Soaring, right? So of course, every Tuesday at 6:30, we have Fathers and Finance. Every Thursday, we have Mommies and Money. And once a month, every fourth Saturday at 6:30, from the heart and mind and the belly of Miss Natasha Harrigan was born Singles and Soaring. So fourth Saturday, that's next Saturday, the 24th at 6:30. Get registered. For all of you listening, Facebook Live, follow Natasha, Tanisha, Miss Laura, myself, and get with Singles and Soaring. The first segment last month was on credit, right? And it was very, very good. Natasha, I don't know what it's going to be. I forgot. I know you already said it, but I forgot what it's going to be. But I just wanted to put that out there. And just wanted to throw that out there. So thank you.
And if I could, thank you for the plug. But generational wealth and saving, that's what it's going to be on. But I did want to mention something that we discussed real quickly for parents to look up dual enrollment. There's definitely AP classes, but they're moving. It's a shift. It's a shift where I have students that they're finished. They have like one class in their junior year. So the rest of that junior year and senior year, they're getting their associate's degree. So let the school system pay for that associate's degree. So I know we don't have enough time, but I definitely wanted to throw that out there. Just look into dual enrollment and just check it out. I don't get anything from it, but it's definitely some information that a lot of parents do not know about. And so you just summer school, virtual, just really look into it, and I think it will assist in that area. But thank you for having me. It was great. I love it.
Awesome.
No problem. For everyone out there, I know Laura and I we're gonna sit there and get this up, but for everyone, I'm sorry. I don't know if my father just fell or I don't know. I don't know what just happened.
That's not funny.
I know. So I'll fix it in a second. But let everyone know that we definitely do want to help each and every one of those moms that's out there, want to help out when it comes down to not just moms, but the dads too. Thanks, David. but the fathers too. We also have workshops every day from Monday through Saturday, ranging from debt management to property protection to retirement planning, and wealth accumulation as well. If you guys need anything else, we definitely are here. We want to sit there and thank each and every one of you for attending Mommies and Money. If you're on Facebook Live, there is a link in the comments. You're very welcome to hit that link, as well as you can hit it on here. And as we will sit there and do a 12-question survey with each and every one, and we'll just figure out what your plans are for yourself as well for your family. And we just want you to just be financially educated on learning how to sit there and build a financial foundation. And either, you know, if you want to become a client or you want to just sit there and be a workshop facilitator, right? You take them all, because that's the whole point. It takes a village. How the village can sit there and speak their voice into each other, we can sit there and help one another as well. So if you need anything, if you need to contact us just via email, we are phoenix2017@gmail.com. That is W-E, I'm not going to spell it, I'm just joking. But we are phoenix2017@gmail.com. And Laura, you can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you for that recap. Thank you all for being on tonight. So we're going to wrap up with our Black History Fun Fact for today. The spotlight goes to Ellen Eglin. I want to call her Ellen. I want to mispronounce her name every single time. Ellen Eglin. Do we have a picture of her, Tanisha? I don't know if I'm able to share. My iPad has been acting funny a little bit.
I may not be able to do that right now, Laura.
Oh, okay. Let me just give you guys a little bit of background information while I try to get her picture up. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so let me just give you guys just a background information on this Ellen Eglin. She is the inventor of the clothes wringer. In the 1800s, she invented a special type of, let me see. Oh, wait a minute. I think I can pull her up. Can you guys see her?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. There she is, the beautiful queen, Miss Ellen Eglin. In the 1800s, she invented a special type of clothes wringer, which was a machine that had two rollers and a frame that was connected to a crank. Clothing would be fed in between the two rollers, and as the crank was turned, the clothes would have their water pressed out. A clothes wringer was made from two wooden pins that are on top of each other with a crank attached to allow the pins to roll. This invention came at a time when there were not a lot of ways to wash clothes other than with your hands. So after scrubbing the laundry by hand on a washboard, it was necessary to wring the clothes out by hand and then hang dry them. Ellen realized that there had to be a better way to wring out clothes. So she put her mind to it and came up with something that revolutionized the very necessary act of washing clothes. Because of this old, long process, this became an amazing invention and concept. However, Eglin decided to sell her patent to a white person interested in manufacturing the product for $18. In the April 1890 issue of Women Inventor, Eglin was quoted as saying, "You know, I'm Black, and if it was known that a Negro woman patented the invention, white ladies would not buy the wringer. I was afraid to be known because of my color, and having it introduced into the market, that is the only reason." So the buyer went on to reap the considerable financial awards, but her wringer is still used today for moms. So thank you, Miss Ellen Eglin, for your amazing invention. Just to give you all a visual of what it looked like, let me try to pull that up too. But I don't know if you guys have all seen like a modern day mop, like the yellow buckets, and they have like that little lever, and you basically push that lever and you can squeeze them up. This is what it looks like if you all can see that. So that was her invention. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Throwback Thursday. You're so funny. Well, you all have a wonderful evening. We're way past time, but again, thank you so much for joining us. Next week, join us YouTube Live. We will no longer be doing Facebook Live, and we'll see you all then. So have a good night and be safe out there. Bye.
Hi, guys. David.